It was past midnight when Logan Carter, a man who could afford to sleep on a mattress stuffed with cash, stepped into the dimly lit alley behind one of his restaurants. The scent of grease, faint perfume, and freshly baked bread filled the air. His clothes were simple, worn jeans, a faded black t-shirt, and scuffed boots. His usually immaculate, styled hair was messy, giving him an unassuming look. This was no ordinary night. For the first time in years, Logan wasn't arriving at one of his upscale restaurants to inspect the books or meet with the head chef. Tonight, he was there to work. A few hours earlier, Logan had been sitting in his corner office, high above the bustling city streets, scrolling through yet another quarterly profit report. His restaurant empire was thriving, his accounts overflowing, but he felt hollow. The more money he made, the further away he felt from the world that had once inspired him. His culinary empire had started as a single diner he opened with his grandmother's savings. Back then, he had scrubbed floors and served tables himself. Somewhere along the way, amidst the luxury and investors, Logan had lost touch with the very heart of his business. So he decided to go undercover. No one at this particular restaurant, the Silver Spoon, knew him as the owner. To them, he was Logan Sanders, a scrappy new hire desperate for a paycheck. The kitchen was alive with chaos when Logan stepped through the back door. Steam rose from boiling pots, plates clattered as servers rushed to deliver orders, and the head chef barked commands that went mostly ignored. "Who the hell are you?" barked a short, wiry man with a thick Brooklyn accent. "Logan, the new guy," Logan replied, forcing himself to sound a little unsure. The man, later introduced as Tony, the kitchen manager, grunted, handing Logan a damp apron. "We're short-staffed, so you're on dish duty. Don't break anything, and stay out of everyone's way." "Got it," Logan said, sliding the apron over his head. As Logan worked his way through a mountain of greasy plates, he observed the staff. They weren't polished or poised like the executives he usually dealt with. They were raw, real, and unapologetically themselves. One person in particular caught his eye. Her name was Maya Torres, and she had a voice that could slice through the cacophony of the kitchen. She was a waitress with a fiery temper and a heart that softened only when she wasn't looking. Logan noticed her when she stopped mid-shift to help a busboy who had dropped a tray of glasses, ignoring Tony's protests. "Focus on your tables," Tony growled, his voice rising over the clinking shards of glass. "Relax, Tony," Maya shot back, crouching to help clean up. "Maybe if you hired more people, we wouldn't be running around like headless chickens." Tony muttered something under his breath, but Maya ignored him. Logan couldn't help but smile at her courage. Later, when she brought a tray of empty plates to the sink, she glanced at Logan. "New guy, huh?" "Yep," Logan replied. "Dish duty sucks," she said, rinsing her hands. "Better than waiting tables, I imagine," he joked. Her eyes flashed with a mix of humor and challenge. "Trust me, dish boy, you couldn't handle my job." Before Logan could respond, she was gone, leaving him with a faint smirk on his face. Over the next few days, Logan settled into his role. He scrubbed floors, peeled potatoes, and endured Tony's endless stream of insults. But he also found himself drawn to Maya. She was the kind of person who seemed to carry the world on her shoulders. Logan overheard snippets of her conversations with other staff. How she worked double shifts to pay for her younger brother's tuition. How she handled rude customers with a smile. And how she refused to let life break her, no matter how hard it tried. One night, as the restaurant closed and the staff cleaned up, Maya caught Logan staring at the menu taped to the wall. "You planning on memorizing that thing?" she asked, throwing her rag over her shoulder. "Maybe," Logan said, turning to her. "I'm curious. If you could put one thing on the menu, what would it be?" Maya looked surprised by the question. She hesitated before answering. "My mom's empanadas. She used to make them every Sunday before things got tough." Logan nodded, sensing the weight of her words. "Maybe you should pitch the idea to management." Maya snorted. "Yeah, right. Like they'd listen to someone like me. Logan's chest tightened at her words, a reminder of how far removed he had become from the people who kept his empire running. Things took a shocking turn the following Friday night. The restaurant was slammed, with customers filling every table and a line stretching out the door. Tony was in a foul mood, the kitchen was understaffed, and Maya was juggling more tables than seemed humanly possible. Logan was scrubbing pots when he heard the crash. He turned to see Maya standing frozen near table 7. Her tray of drinks spilled all over a man in a designer suit. "I'm so sorry," Maya said, grabbing napkins to blot the man's soaked shirt. "Do you have any idea how much this shirt costs?" The man snapped, his voice dripping with disdain. "It was an accident," Maya said, trying to stay calm. "Clearly," the man sneered. "Maybe if you paid attention to your job instead of whatever nonsense you were thinking about, this wouldn't have happened." Logan felt his blood boil as he watched the scene unfold. Maya's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she held her ground. "I said I'm sorry," she repeated, her voice firm. "Sorry isn't good enough," the man barked. "Do you even know who I am? I could get you fired with one phone call." Before Logan could stop himself, he stepped forward. "That's enough." The man turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you? Another incompetent employee?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Just someone who doesn't think you should talk to people like that." The man scoffed, looking Logan up and down. "Figures. Birds of a feather." Maya grabbed Logan's arm, pulling him back. "It's fine," she whispered. "No, it's not," Logan said, his voice louder now. "You don't deserve to be treated like that." The room had gone silent, all eyes on the confrontation. Logan realized he had drawn too much attention, but he didn't care. He looked at Maya, her face a mixture of gratitude and panic, and knew he couldn't let this moment pass. That night, as the staff cleaned up, Tony pulled Logan aside. "What the hell was that?" Tony demanded. "I wasn't going to stand there and let him humiliate her," Logan replied. "You're on thin ice, new guy," Tony warned. "We don't need any heroes here." But as Logan scrubbed the counters, he couldn't shake the feeling that standing up for Maya had been the right thing to do. For the first time in years, he felt connected to the people, to the restaurant, to something real. And as he caught Maya stealing a glance at him from across the room, he realized something else. This undercover job was about to get a lot more complicated. The following week was a whirlwind at the Silver Spoon. Logan's undercover stint, intended to reconnect him with the roots of his empire, had turned into something far more personal. His run-in with the rude customer had earned him side eyes from Tony and whispers from the staff. But one person had noticed for all the right reasons. Maya started small. During a rare break in the chaos of a Friday night rush, Maya leaned against the counter beside Logan, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief. "So," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "What's your deal, dish boy?" Logan glanced at her, his heart doing a strange twist. "My deal? You come in here, put up with Tony's attitude, defend me from that nightmare customer last week. Most new hires wouldn't bother. What's your story?" Logan hesitated. He'd carefully avoided sharing too much about himself since starting this undercover experiment. But Maya's gaze was steady, curious but not prying. "No story," he said finally, offering her a small smile. "Just needed a fresh start." Maya raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced but willing to let it slide. "Fair enough. But let me give you some advice. If you're sticking around here, don't make a habit of standing up to Tony. He's got a long memory." Logan laughed. "Noted." As Maya walked away to check on her tables, Logan found himself watching her. There was something about her, the way she carried herself, the fire in her spirit, that pulled him in. By the next evening, Logan was learning more about the intricacies of the restaurant. Though he scrubbed dishes and prepped ingredients, he paid attention to every detail. The way orders piled up during peak hours, the staff's frustration with outdated kitchen equipment, and the way Maya somehow kept everything running smoothly despite it all. She was the glue holding the place together, even if no one seemed to notice. But not everything in Maya's life was as seamless as her work ethic. Logan overheard snippets of conversations, mentions of overdue rent, her younger brother's school fees, and a landlord who wasn't known for his patience. One night, as they closed the restaurant together, Logan mustered the courage to ask, "Is everything okay?" he said, stacking chairs onto tables. Maya froze for a moment before shrugging. "Define okay." Logan set down the chair he was holding. "You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." For a moment, she seemed to consider his offer, but then her walls went back up. "I'm fine," she said, her tone light but distant. "I've got it under control." Logan nodded, sensing she wasn't ready to open up. Still, the exchange left him with a gnawing feeling. He couldn't shake the urge to help, even if it meant risking his cover. The next morning, Logan decided to use his position as the restaurant's secret owner to fix at least one of Maya's problems. After making a discreet call to his corporate team, he arranged for a surprise delivery of new kitchen equipment to the restaurant. When the shiny new appliances arrived later that week, the staff buzzed with excitement. "Looks like management finally cares about us," Tony grumbled, though even he seemed pleased. Maya's smile was radiant as she inspected the new gear. "This is incredible. We've been asking for upgrades for months." Logan stayed in the background, watching her reaction. He didn't need credit. Seeing her happy was enough. But later that evening, as they cleaned up after another busy night, Maya's curiosity resurfaced. "You were pretty quiet about the whole kitchen upgrade thing," she said, glancing at Logan. "Was I supposed to say something?" He replied, feigning innocence. Maya tilted her head, studying him. "It's just, you've got this weird habit of being in the right place at the right time. It's almost like you're..." "Like I'm what?" Logan asked, his pulse quickening. "Too good to be true," Maya said, her tone playful but laced with curiosity. Logan forced a laugh, brushing off her comment. "Maybe I'm just lucky." But Maya wasn't convinced, and Logan could feel her suspicion growing. That night, as Logan lay awake in his small apartment above the restaurant, he realized he was walking a thin line. Maya was smart, too smart to overlook the inconsistencies in his story for long. He had to decide how much to reveal and when. But there was another problem gnawing at him, his growing feelings for her. This wasn't supposed to happen. The plan had been simple. Reconnect with the heart of his business, learn what it meant to work among his staff, and then return to his world as a better leader. Falling for one of his employees, a woman with 1,000 other concerns, hadn't been part of the equation. A week later, Logan's undercover experiment took an unexpected turn. Maya's brother, Leo, showed up at the restaurant, his backpack slung over one shoulder and a worried look on his face. "Maya," he whispered urgently, tugging at her sleeve. "What's wrong, Leo?" Maya asked, crouching to his level. "I got a call from the landlord," Leo said, his voice trembling. "He said we have until the end of the week to pay or we'll get kicked out." Maya's face paled. She pulled Leo into a quick hug before sending him to the staff lounge to wait for her. Logan watched the scene unfold, his chest tightening. That evening, Logan found Maya wiping down tables with more force than necessary. "Everything okay?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I don't want to talk about it," she muttered, not looking at him. "Maya..." Logan hesitated, then said, "Let me help." She froze, her grip tightening on the rag in her hand. "Help? How?" "I can lend you some money," Logan said carefully. "Enough to cover the rent until you get back on your feet." Maya's eyes snapped to his, a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You barely know me, Logan. Why would you do that?" "Because I can," Logan replied simply. "That's not a reason," she said, her voice rising. "People don't just do things like that without expecting something in return." "I don't expect anything," Logan said firmly. "I just want to help." But Maya shook her head, her walls slamming back into place. "I don't need your charity." She stormed out, leaving Logan standing alone in the empty restaurant. Logan paced the tiny apartment above the restaurant, his mind racing. Maya's pride and refusal to accept help were admirable, but they also put her and her brother in danger of losing everything. He knew he could fix this with one phone call, but doing so would mean exposing himself and the truth about who he really was. How could he tell her that the scrappy new hire she'd been trading banter with was actually the owner of the Silver Spoon and its chain of high-end restaurants, and that the offer to help wasn't just from some well-meaning coworker, but from a billionaire who had been pretending to understand her world? The stakes felt higher than ever, but Logan couldn't stand by and do nothing. At the restaurant the next morning, the tension between Logan and Maya was palpable. She barely looked at him, throwing herself into her work with a determination that bordered on desperation. Logan decided to keep his distance, hoping to find another way to help her without crossing the lines she had drawn. That night, after the restaurant closed, Logan stayed behind to speak with Tony. "Hey, boss," Tony said with a smirk, lighting a cigarette by the back door. "What's on your mind?" Logan bristled at the word boss. Tony was one of the few people who knew his true identity, sworn to secrecy when Logan first started his undercover experiment. "Maya," Logan said, getting straight to the point, "she's in trouble, and I need you to do something for me." Tony took a drag from his cigarette, raising an eyebrow. "Trouble? You mean that landlord business?" Logan nodded. "I want you to arrange an advance for her, something discreet, through the restaurant's payroll. Just enough to cover her rent and get her back on her feet." Tony chuckled. "You've got it bad for her, don't you?" "It's not like that," Logan said quickly, though even he didn't believe it. "I just don't want to see her suffer." "Sure, boss," Tony said, stubbing out his cigarette. "I'll take care of it. But you know this is gonna blow up in your face eventually, right?" Logan ignored the warning, his focus entirely on helping Maya. The next day, Maya arrived at the restaurant looking more frazzled than usual. Logan watched as she juggled orders, her movements sharp and mechanical. Finally, during a lull in the rush, he approached her. "Maya," he said gently, "can we talk?" She glanced at him, her expression weary. "What is it, Logan?" "I just want to make sure you're okay," he said. "You seemed upset yesterday, and—" "I'm fine," she snapped, cutting him off. "I don't need you to check on me. I can handle my own problems." Logan hesitated, unsure whether to push further or back off. Before he could decide, Maya turned away, leaving him standing there with the weight of unspoken words. That evening, Maya received an envelope marked with the restaurant's logo. Inside was a note informing her of an advance on her next paycheck, along with the exact amount she needed to cover her rent. She stared at the note, her hands trembling. Confusion turned to suspicion, and she immediately thought of Logan. The following day, she confronted Tony in the back of the restaurant. "What's this about?" she demanded, holding up the envelope. Tony shrugged, feigning ignorance. "Management must have decided to help you out." "Lucky break." "Huh." Maya narrowed her eyes. "Management doesn't even know I exist." "Tell me the truth, Tony." Tony hesitated, then sighed. "Look, I'm not supposed to say anything, but Logan asked me to set it up." Maya froze. "Logan?" "Yeah," Tony said, lighting another cigarette. "The guy's got a soft spot for you. Don't be too hard on him." Maya's mind reeled as she tried to process this new information. Logan had gone behind her back. But why? And how could a dishwasher afford to help her like this? The pieces didn't add up. That night, as the restaurant emptied out, Maya waited for Logan by the back door. When he finally appeared, carrying a crate of produce, she stepped into his path. "We need to talk," she said, her voice firm. Logan set the crate down, his heart sinking at the look on her face. "What's wrong?" "I know you're the one who arranged the advance," Maya said. "Why would you do that?" Logan hesitated, his carefully constructed lie teetering on the edge of collapse. "I just wanted to help," he said cautiously. With what money? Maya pressed. Dishwashers don't have that kind of cash lying around. Who are you, Logan? Really? The question hit him like a freight train. He could see the suspicion in her eyes, the determination to uncover the truth. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's complicated. Try me, Maya said, crossing her arms. Logan glanced around, ensuring they were alone. Then finally he spoke. I'm not just an employee, he admitted. I'm the owner of this restaurant. Maya stared at him, stunned. What? My real name is Logan Carter, he continued. I own the Silver Spoon and a chain of other restaurants. I came here undercover to reconnect with the business, to see what it's really like for the people who work here. Maya's shock turned to anger. So, this whole time you've been lying to me? Playing some kind of game while pretending to be one of us? It's not like that, Logan said quickly. I wasn't trying to deceive you. I needed to understand what I'd lost sight of. And then I met you and... Stop, Maya said, holding up a hand. You don't get to make this about me. You lied, Logan. You let me think you were someone you're not. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Logan's chest tightened as he saw the hurt in her eyes. Maya, I never meant to hurt you. I can't do this, she said, cutting him off. I can't trust you. She turned and walked away, leaving Logan standing alone in the alley, the weight of his secret crashing down around him. Maya couldn't stop replaying the conversation in her mind. Logan, a dishwasher she thought she knew, wasn't Logan at all. He was Logan Carter, a millionaire who owned not just the Silver Spoon, but a sprawling chain of restaurants. The revelation left her reeling. Every moment they'd shared felt tainted now, every conversation layered with the sting of his deception. She didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he'd lied, or the nagging feeling that she'd started to care for someone who was never who he claimed to be. As Maya sat at her small kitchen table that night, with Leo fast asleep in the next room, she tried to sort through her emotions. The envelope with the advance sat in front of her, a stark reminder of Logan's hidden generosity. She wanted to hate him, but the truth was she couldn't. Logan, meanwhile, was grappling with the fallout of his confession. He spent the next few days working at the restaurant in silence, avoiding Maya whenever their shifts overlapped. The staff noticed the tension between them, but no one dared to comment, except Tony. You look like hell, Tony said, leaning against the counter as Logan scrubbed a pot. Thanks for the observation, Logan muttered. Tony smirked. So what's your plan? Let her stew forever? Logan sighed. I don't have a plan, Tony. I told her the truth, and she hates me for it. She doesn't hate you, Tony said. She's hurt. There's a difference. Logan glanced at him. How do you fix something like this? You don't, Tony said simply. You prove you're worth forgiving. And if you're not, you let her go. A few nights later, fate forced Logan and Maya to cross paths in an unexpected way. Maya was finishing her shift when her phone buzzed. She frowned as she read the message. Maya, this is Mr. Rodriguez. I've given you as much time as I can, but if you don't pay the remaining balance by tomorrow, I'll have no choice but to proceed with eviction. Her stomach sank. She had managed to scrape together part of the rent, but still fell short by several $100s. The landlord had already given her an extension, but time had run out. She tried to steady her breathing as panic set in. Leo was counting on her, and she had no idea how to fix this. Logan noticed her pale face as she clocked out, and despite everything, he couldn't stay silent. Maya, he said softly. She turned to him, her guard immediately going up. What do you want, Logan? You look upset, he said. Is everything okay? Her eyes flashed with anger. You don't get to ask me that anymore. Logan held up his hands. I'm not trying to overstep. I just want to help. You've done enough, Maya snapped, her voice shaking. Do you even know what it feels like? To scrape by every day, wondering if you're going to have a roof over your head tomorrow? Of course you don't. You can just write a check and make your problems disappear. Her words cut deep, but Logan didn't back down. You're right. I don't know what it feels like, but that doesn't mean I don't care. Maya shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. It's not that simple, Logan. You can't just throw money at every problem and expect it to fix things. Before he could respond, she turned and walked out into the night. The next morning, Logan received an urgent call from Tony. You need to get down here, Tony said. It's Maya. Something's wrong. Logan's heart dropped. He rushed to the restaurant and found Maya sitting on a crate in the storage room, her head in her hands. What happened? Logan asked, kneeling beside her. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. It's Leo. He skipped school today, and I can't find him. He was upset about the eviction notice, and I think he ran off. Logan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll find him. Maya nodded, her panic barely under control. I've already called his friends, but no one's seen him. I don't know where else to look. Let's think, Logan said. Is there somewhere he likes to go? A park? A library? Maya hesitated, then said, There's a playground near our old apartment. He used to love it there. Logan stood, extending a hand to her. Let's go. They found Leo an hour later, sitting on a swing at the playground. His small frame was hunched, his backpack resting at his feet. Maya rushed to him, pulling him into a tight hug. Don't ever scare me like that again, she said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry, Leo mumbled, tears streaming down his face. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to make things harder for you. You're never a burden, Maya said firmly, wiping his tears. Logan stood back, giving them space, but when Maya turned to him, her expression was softer than it had been in days. Thank you, she said quietly. He nodded. You don't have to do this alone, Maya. Let me help, even if it's just this once. That evening, back at the restaurant, Maya finally allowed herself to open up. I've been angry at you, Logan, she admitted, sitting across from him in the break room. Because you reminded me of everything I hate about my life, how powerless I feel. But today, I realized it's not about power. It's about who's there when it matters. Logan met her gaze, his chest tightening. Maya, I know I've made mistakes, and I know I have a lot to prove, but I meant it when I said I care about you. For the first time, Maya didn't look away. I don't need you to fix my life, Logan. I just need to know that when you say you care, you mean it. I do, Logan said, his voice steady. And I'll prove it if you'll let me. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Logan Carter knew he couldn't keep hiding. Not from Maya, and not from the life he'd stepped away from. After their conversation in the break room, a fragile truce had formed between them. Maya had allowed him back into her world, but there was a distance in her eyes, a flicker of mistrust that Logan knew wouldn't disappear easily. He'd already risked exposing himself by intervening in her eviction crisis. But as the deadline loomed and the weight of her struggles pressed down on her, Logan realized he couldn't sit by and watch her lose everything. The question wasn't whether to act. It was how to do it without destroying the delicate connection they'd rebuilt. The next day, Logan made a call to his legal team. I need you to purchase the building Maya Torres lives in, he said, his tone decisive. Quietly, no public records linking it back to me, and ensure the eviction proceedings are stopped immediately. Understood, the lawyer replied. Logan exhaled. It was a bold move, but it was the only way he could protect Maya and Leo without crossing the boundaries she had set. Or so he thought. 2 days later, Maya received an unexpected visit from her landlord. Well, Ms. Torres, Mr. Rodriguez said with a sheepish smile, I have good news. Your rent balance has been forgiven, and your lease is secure for the next year. Maya stared at him, stunned. What are you talking about? How is that possible? Rodriguez shrugged. The new owner of the building has taken care of everything. Consider yourself lucky. Maya's confusion turned to suspicion. New owner? Who's the new owner? I don't know, Rodriguez said with a shrug. Some corporate entity. But whoever it is, they clearly don't want you going anywhere. Maya's heart sank. She knew exactly who was behind this. Later that evening, she stormed into the restaurant, her anger barely contained. Logan was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, when she appeared. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low but sharp. Logan set down the knife, bracing himself. "What's wrong? You bought my building, didn't you?" she accused, her arms crossed. Logan froze. He had hoped to keep his involvement a secret, but the look in her eyes told him it was too late to deny it. "Yes," he admitted quietly. Maya's face twisted with a mix of anger and hurt. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I told you I didn't need your charity, Logan." "It wasn't charity," he said, his voice firm. "It was me trying to protect you and Leo. You went behind my back," she shot back. "Again. Do you even understand what it feels like to have someone else decide your life for you? To feel powerless?" Logan stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "I wasn't trying to take away your power, Maya. I was trying to give you stability. Something you've worked so hard for, but haven't been able to find." Maya shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "You don't get it. You can't fix everything with money, Logan. Life doesn't work that way." "I know," Logan said, his voice breaking, "but it's the only way I know how to help. I've spent my whole life solving problems with money and power because I didn't think I had anything else to offer. But with you, I wanted to be different. I wanted to be someone you could trust." Maya looked at him, her anger softening but not disappearing. "Then why didn't you just tell me the truth from the start? Why did you lie?" "Because I was afraid," Logan admitted. "Afraid that if you knew who I really was, you'd see me the way everyone else does. A billionaire who's out of touch with the real world. I didn't want to be that person with you." Maya's expression wavered, her emotions warring with each other. "And now, Logan said, stepping closer. "I'm standing here, asking you to give me a chance to prove that I'm more than that. To prove that I care about you. Not as an employee, not as someone I can help, but as the woman who's changed the way I see everything." The silence between them stretched, heavy with unspoken feelings. The tension broke when Leo burst into the kitchen, clutching a piece of paper. "Maya!" he exclaimed, his face lit with excitement. "Look at this. They're opening up scholarships for the community college, and I think I can apply." Maya took the paper, her eyes scanning the details. Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "That's great, Leo," she said softly, pulling him into a hug. Logan watched the exchange, his heart swelling. In that moment, he realized what he truly wanted. It wasn't about fixing Maya's problems or earning her forgiveness. It was about being part of her life, supporting her and Leo in ways that mattered. That night, as Maya walked Leo home, she replayed Logan's words in her mind. He had lied to her, yes, but his actions, flawed as they were, had come from a place of genuine care. She hated how much she wanted to believe him, how much she wanted to give him another chance. When she returned to the restaurant, Logan was still there, cleaning up the kitchen. "Logan," she said quietly, drawing his attention. He turned, his expression cautious. "Yeah." Maya hesitated, then said, "I don't know if I can forgive you for lying, but I do believe you care. And maybe that's enough to start over." Logan's shoulders relaxed, and a small smile tugged at his lips. "I'll take it." Maya stepped closer, her gaze steady. "But no more secrets. If we're doing this, I need the truth, all of it." "You have my word," Logan said, his voice firm. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a glimmer of hope. Epilogue months later, the Silver Spoon was thriving under Logan's renewed leadership. He had made good on his promise to stay connected with his staff, often working shifts alongside them despite his billionaire status. Maya's life had stabilized, with Leo thriving in school and their housing situation secure. She and Logan took things slowly, building a relationship rooted in honesty and mutual respect. Logan's grand gesture might have started their journey, but it was the quiet moments, the shared laughs, the late-night conversations, and the unwavering support that defined their story. And for the first time in years, both Logan and Maya found something they hadn't realized they were missing: home.